look, I'm stubborn, right? I'm an addict. I'm stubborn. And it's crazy because my thinking and I was always able to get my way with things. And then the disease of addiction got so great that I couldn't control it.
I'm a former Detroit police officer and rode with the One Percenter Motorcycle Club. During that time, I was involved in a lot of altercations. I had a gun shoved in my face. The trigger was pulled, and I got a plate under my left eye. I'm Manny Vitale, and this is my story. How you doing, everybody? I'm Manny Vitale, host of My Fight, Our War with Kevin Lanning. And I really appreciate you coming on the show. I saw you with Ian, and your story, man, hit on so many different levels, just like on personal stuff too. But I mean, it's just, when I first saw it, it's like, you got a good looking dude, man, with a hell of a story. And it's like, you'd be a fool not to, have him on. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, Manny. And I think one of the things that's very important, at least for the listeners and people who are struggling, we look like we come from two different walks of life, right? I go to meetings, I see people from different walks of life, like just different upbringings, different whatever it is. But the feelings you talked about when hearing my story, you were able to identify. And I think it's very important to note that the disease of addiction, alcoholism, whatever it is, it doesn't discriminate. And I think unity and community, I mean, I'm sober I'm coming up on 7 years of sobriety. And, well, first off, 80% of the phone numbers in my phone right now are people from sobriety. That's the network I've built up over the past 7 years. Now, going up to the age of probably 85 years old in my phone.
What was your recovery? What recovery method? It was like some people with the 12, with the steps.
I go to a 12-step program.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah. Due to the traditions, I don't want to say which one, but I go to a 12-step program. I went away a number of times prior to getting sober this time. I think I went to, I want to say 4 inpatient rehabs. I went to a number of outpatient rehabs. I had tried getting clean and sober. So painkillers were my drug of choice. I drank, I smoked weed, I would do coke here and there, other drugs, ecstasy. But painkillers, once I discovered painkillers when I had my first shoulder surgery, that was that I had arrived moment, that they talk about.
I'm home.
Yep. All of the fear went away. All of the insecurities went away. All of the resentments I had against everyone went away. I was able to do anything. I could run for president probably on pills. And then, it went from, Vicodin to Percocet to Oxycontin and then at the end, I had done fentanyl, and it was like, things just spiraled really fucking quick. And I never thought it would happen to me. That's the scary thing. I started going to meetings. I got sober February 2018. Started going to meetings probably in 2009. Was the first time I ever walked into a meeting. And I think I was on Percocets at that time. I hadn't gone to Oxycontin yet. And my disease wasn't in full,
And you were using from how long before that?
So, I had my first drink at like 15. Smoking weed at like 17, pills probably 19. So I would say I was born in 85. So 2000, was drinking from 2002 to, started drinking then. Painkillers I discovered in probably 04, 05. And then, 09, 2010, I went to my first meeting because I had come home from college and I moved right back in with my parents. They saw firsthand what was going on. My parents were all over my ass. They knew exactly what was up. They knew, something was wrong with me. And, my mom's like, oh, your cousin is sober. But he was. My cousin got sober probably a year prior to me graduating. And she's like, he goes to these meetings. You should go with him, blah, 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 blah. So I ended up going. And I remember seeing these people in there from all different walks of life. And I'm judging. And I'm sitting there saying, well, that person looks like they were homeless like 3 years ago, but they have 5 years of, they're clean and sober, 5 years. That person looks like a hippie. I can't relate to him. That person looks like they grew up in the ghetto. I can't relate to them. There's a 16-year-old kid. I can't relate to him.
It's funny. It just brought something. When you were saying that, I had someone, we were talking. He goes, "Wait, I can tell an alcoholic and a drug addict." And I was like, "What? How?" Well, the alcoholic, staggering around, puke all over him with drinking out of a bag. What about a drug addict? Laying in the alley with a needle hanging out of their arm. I go, what about the guy in the boardroom who went into the bathroom and just shot up during, it's like, so when you said the different people, it doesn't discriminate.
No.
So just saying that right now is like you're right, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't discriminate.
It's crazy. And then I heard the feelings, and although I could relate to I wasn't listening to what they were saying. I was just like, nope, can't relate to that. Like, just by looking at these people in meetings. Yet, these people had their fucking lives together. And here's me, this young, ignorant kid. In 2009, I was like 23, maybe 24. Just ignorant kid that was judging and giving up an opportunity at sobriety. And then the yets. I hear all these people doing things in meetings that they're, someone with 5-year sobriety talking about when they were using and how they used to steal and how they used to do this and rob their mom's jewelry box and like all this crazy stuff, run to the pawn shop. And like, I hadn't been there yet. And I was like, nah, man. And then all of these things that I said I would never do, I started doing. But to take a step back, I grew up in New York. I'm originally from New York. I'm from Long Island. Lived in Long Island. I have 2 older brothers. We all played sports. Our parents had us on. Everyone plays football, everyone wrestles, and then everyone plays lacrosse or baseball. You're constantly doing something. Stay involved, stay active, which was great. I was very competitive with my brothers. When I got to high school, I had an identity. I was a class clown. It wasn't an authentic identity. It was a class clown. I needed you to laugh to validate me. But I think I kind of have my identity, one of those. But,
you kind of created,
Yeah. And I was good at football. I was really good at football. And I got a lot of recognition with football. And that, for me, I was drinking, smoking weed, coke, but like not to the point where it was very concerning. It was like on the weekends after we won a game. And then, it was what it was during that time. But I feel like for me, I think drinking, drugging, gambling, sex addiction, these are all symptoms of the disease. My symptom, I felt like during that time, was the attention I was getting through playing football and doing well. So I play football at Albany. And I remember showing up to football camp, to summer camp, right before the start of the season, my freshman year. It's a Division I program. Mm-hmm. I walk on the field, and I see everyone is twice my size, and everyone is like 5 times faster than I am.
All going from high school to college.
It was a whole nother speed. And I remember just looking around and just saying to myself, I want no part of this. The fear instantly set in. The fear of I'm not going to be good enough. The fear of I'm not going to start immediately. Well, yeah, you're not. You're going to have to work your way up, go through their workout program just like anyone else does. And I was challenged. And anytime I was so scared of challenge that my defense mechanism there was just I got to get out of here. Like I got to, So I end up redshirting my first year, and then I eventually tear my rotator cuff playing football. My left rotator cuff. Had shoulder surgery. I was put on pain meds, and that was really the first time that I was introduced to. It was Vicodin. It was a very low. I mean, it's still a narcotic, but for someone who's never done opiates before, you take a Vicodin, you're gonna get high. Like that's just, you take 2 of them, you're going to get high. And it was the first time I felt that opiate high. It was like a warm blanket, and again, the fears went away, the anxiety went away, the resentments went away. I was able to do, in my mind, I believe that I can do anything in the world.
It was like bulletproof because I know same thing with my surgeries and all that. I would hear people talk about the high, and then it wasn't like this intense, like with alcohol or Coke. It was just like this, not euphoric, but it was just like whatever came up, it didn't matter. It was like, I got this.
Yep. I can handle anything. I can do anything. There was no fear whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Fear is a big part of my story. I was always in fear. I was always in fear that, like, I wasn't going to succeed. I was in fear that I was going to get so many assignments from school that I was going to miss one and fail out. And, like, these fears were just all made up in my head. And so I end up having the shoulder surgery. I get put on pain meds. Soon after, the doctor, like a good doctor should, cut you off appropriately. Maybe, I think I was on them for a few months. Even a few months is a long time, but still, like he was the team doctor, and he cut me off, and it was my first opportunity to stop playing football. And I look back, and I liked the recognition, but I didn't like the hard work. And I got a break of what it was like to not. I had played football from 5 years old up until I think I was like 20 at the time.
Yeah, and you were saying too that recognition, just going back on something you said about how like going from high school to college, man. With high school, man, it was like, that's Kevin. So everyone out there knew, numbers. That's Kevin.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that had to be pretty hard, man, to all of a sudden go from that to who is that?
Yeah. It's funny when I see like a professional, like you see some of these professional athletes, and you see them, the ones who are able, they're superstars. Let's say they win like the Heisman in college, and then they go onto a team, and then they don't start right away, and then they eventually start 3 years later or something like that, and then they have a successful. That's an athlete. That's a gifted fucking athlete, because mentally they have their shit together, and they're able to get humble and understand what a work ethic really is. But anyway, so that was my first break from sports in 15 years. And I was like, this is great. And I also didn't want to upset my father and just tell him, like, I don't want to play anymore.
Now, did they push you into that? I mean, were they your parents as far as that competitive? I was like, you're playing and that's it?
Yeah. So I did a lot of work on this, and it's not on them at all. I think it was just an expectation. They were keeping us out of trouble when we were young. My father played football. So it was, guys, you're doing something. You're not hanging out after school with the dirtbags and smoking weed, and you're going to play sports, right? Kevin, you're playing football? Great. Danny, football. John, football. Okay,
check.
Got it. And they just assumed, and they just kept us busy. In my head, because my thinking's all fucked up, I'm thinking that they're pushing us to do this, and it's an expectation. More so than just staying busy, but so that, we're making them happy secretly. But no, we weren't making them happy. They were doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves by keeping us busy, not hanging out with the dirtbags after school. And I'm not judging dirtbags because I soon after became one.
I was just going to say, man, we were the best dirtbags there were,
I became
man.
one. No, so fast forward now, I'm not playing. I have to turn to the street now to get pills, or other athletes who got injuries. Can I buy your prescription from you? Then it turned out, Vicodins didn't work anymore for me. Now I got to go get Percocets. And it's an expensive habit. And I'm now on the lookout for the next get-rich-quick scheme. What can I do to make money? I'm not resorting to robbing anyone yet. I haven't jumped that yet. So I decide, I'm out at a bar one night and I'm talking to this guy. We're just shooting the shit, drinking, and he's the manager of my school bookstore. So we're talking, I'm automatically right off the bat, fucking prices of books, how much money the school makes, they rip their students off. Where's the source? Where do they get their books from? What website? Let's start our own business. Let's cut the fucking middleman out and let's put them out of business and make all this money, lower our profits. And he's like, what if I told you that they have all of their books in a warehouse off the university? So it's not on site. It's off site warehouse that they do not keep their inventory for. Like all the books that are coming in and the books that go out and get sold, they don't keep track of their inventory. And he's like, and I have a key to that warehouse. I was like, well, what if I told you I have a network of people, athletes that I knew from all the other sports teams, that I can tap into and sell books to? So you have the supply, I have the demand. And he's like, here's my number. Let's talk. Let's link up next weekend or whatever. So him and I start talking. I said, I know you said they don't take inventory, but when books are returned at the end of the semester, is it going to pop up that, these books were in fact stolen, and are my people going to get in trouble that I sell to? He's like, no, it's good. It's good. I said, then let's start with 10 books. Let's sell 10 different books and let this semester go through and see, in fact, if that is true. We do it. I find 10 people that need books, textbooks only, economics books, statistics books, no workbooks or anything, just the bigger expensive textbooks. And it was cash, half off. So if it was a $200 textbook, give me $100 for the textbook. It's a deal. And then they return it and probably get $40 and they only paid $60 for a textbook. It's worth it. So we do 10 textbooks. Semester goes. It was fall semester. They sell them back at the end of the semester. No issues. They all get money back for the books. Great. Next semester comes. Let's do 100 books. We do 100 books. The first semester with the 10 books, I think it was about $1,000. The second semester with 100 bucks was about $10,000. Him and I are splitting everything 50-50. So the 10 grand, 5K, done. Next year comes. Now it's let's no issues with the 100 books in the spring semester. Great. Now, next year, we decide to do, so in semesters, they do quarter classes now. So let's say a semester is like 12 weeks or something. They do 6 weeks. You can condense a 12-week class into 6 weeks. So we do quarter classes for the fall semester, the entire fall semester, winter classes, spring semester, spring quarter classes, and then summer classes. We made about $200,000, a little over $200,000 the second year doing it, cash.
$200,000, man. Just
$200,000 cash doing it.
Unbelievable. And this was just, just sitting at the bar, word of mouth, and all of a sudden it goes from, and within a year?
Within a year, it was a $200,000 a year operation.
That's insane, man.
So now I start getting greedy. I keep $120,000 of that $200,000. I give him $80,000. Oh, we only made $160,000. I'm handling the money with these people.
I was just going to say, he's got no way.
He's just leaving the door open at the warehouse. I am handling everything from there. The next year comes around. And the crazy thing is, $200,000 cash is a lot of money for anyone. For a college kid?
That's insane.
But it was $120,000 that I took from that. I had $120,000 in my dorm room at the time. And the crazy thing is, I don't know where the fuck it all went. I spent it all on drugs. I spent it all on partying. All of my friends, we were going out, we were doing this, blah, 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 blah. Just completely had nothing to show for it and spent it all. Didn't save any of it.
But, I mean, what about, obviously you're not telling anyone. He's not telling anyone, but your friends, they're seeing,
They think I'm some rich kid from Long Island.
Okay.
Little do they know I grew up in a middle-class family. I don't have parents with money.
Because no one else knew except you two, right? No one else knew, and him.
The warehouse guy, the guy that worked at the bookstore, and then I told one of my friends about it. One of my close friends.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, man, if you all of a sudden, hey, man, all of a sudden Kevin's buying, he's at the, but then again, like you said, backstory, rich kid.
They thought I was. So it's funny because right before I went to college, I got into a car accident, and I have a little scar here. The glass blew out in my face. and I have a little scar on my face. And after I was fine, I went to the hospital. After it, they give I think it was like Geico or Allstate. They sent a representative to my house. They look at me, and they give me a settlement for like 25 grand right before I went to college. So my father, smart,
Startup fund.
well, he was like, listen, you're going to college. My car was just totaled. I ended up buying a Jeep. It wasn't a brand new Jeep, but it was a couple of years. It was like maybe 3 years old. And it was like one lease old, you know? Mm-hmm. And I show up to college in this Jeep. Now, that's a nice car for a college kid, freshman. So everyone thought that I had money. Little did they know I did not have fucking money. Like, it was the settlement, and then the settlement went into book scheming, and
it was like everything was just laid right out. It was
perfect.
like this perfect storm.
Yeah, no one asked questions. So now it's the next year after we make the $200,000, and we do again fall semester, quarter classes, winter, and then the spring semester comes around. I'm going to the warehouse. I'm picking up. I don't even know how many books I'm picking up, but I did 10 at a time. So I grabbed the first 10, put them in the back of my truck. I go in, grab the second 10, bring them in. As I'm bringing them out to my car, I turn around, and there is the general manager of the school bookstore, this lady, and 2 police officers, Albany troopers that were up there waiting for me. And I'm just like, hey. And they're like, so this is where the lady was like, this is where our fucking books have been going for the past 2 years.
Did your partner turn you in, or did he?
I don't know to this day.
I mean, it seems
sketchy.
Yeah.
They were just in the right place at the right time. Yeah. I don't know. I will never know the truth.
Damn, so here you are, you got the first 10. And here, this is, what, 2 years into this?
2.5.
2.5 years.
Almost, yeah, like 2.5 coming up on my third year.
And that's what she popped off with. So that's where
our books have been going for the past 2.5 years.
How in the hell did you, I mean...
I said it. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done this. Meaning like this was my first time.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, this is my first time, blah, blah, blah. And I talked a little bit, and then my father always said to me, when you're with fucking cops, don't say shit. And they also have body cams now and shit. Like, don't say a word. Just let them take you in, let them do their thing, and you'll deal with it. And that popped into my head a minute into it, and then I just shut. And then she kept asking me questions, and I just didn't say anything. And then they handcuffed me, put me in the back of the car, took me to the precinct, fingerprint. They took my mugshot. They handcuffed me to the table, to the ring, and I'm sitting there and doing like the intake stuff. And I was in the midst of interviewing for an internship that summer. It was spring semester. I was going to be doing it that summer. And it was a family friend who set me up with the internship, who was pretty high up at the company. And I went through the whole process, and it was the final round of interviews. It was like human resources doing a follow-up interview with me just to like make sure like I'm stable and I have a pulse, and like I'm normal. And basically I get the internship. And the family friend said, Kevin, they're going to call you on Friday at 12 noon. Make sure you pick up the phone. You're going to get the internship. Just make sure you pick up the phone at 12. It was 11:40 a.m. that Friday. And I'm sitting there handcuffed to the fucking thing. And I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, holy shit, I have a call in 20 minutes. So I turn, and this is where the manipulation kicks in with the police officer. Like, listen, sir, like I played football at Albany. I'm not a bad kid. This is my first offense. Now, I'd never been arrested before. And he was like, and I told him I have an internship call with Human Resources. Please, it'll be 15 minutes. Do you think I could just do it? Please, please, please. And he ended up going and getting my phone for me. And he said, listen, I'm going to uncuff one hand. I'm going to put the other cuff to the ring here so you're still there. Do not make me fucking regret this decision. I'm trying to help you here, and I want you to better your life and learn from this shit. He said, but don't fuck this up. And I was like, okay, I won't. So this fucking lady calls me at 12 o'clock. I answer the phone. I'm like, hi, it's Kevin Lanning. How are you? Like, she's like, so Kevin, like, what do you like to do in your free time? I'm like, yeah, I like to play sports. I'm very creative. Like that. And
You're chained to the table.
I'm chained to the fucking table, and inmates are being brought through like behind me. Like it was fucking absurd, man. It was absolutely absurd. So I get the internship, and so whatever. So I leave the precinct. I was bailed out. I wasn't hit with a grand larceny because they only got me for those 10 books. So I had a bail. I was released. I got bail paid. I was released. I went home. About a week later, I get a letter from the university. They're like, "Hey, you've been kicked out of Albany. You've been kicked out of school, the university." I'm like, "Fuck," because they were pressing charges against me, and they booted me from the school. You have like a week or so to leave. I'm like, fuck. So the following week, I go to my attorney's office. I got an attorney. And I hadn't been in front of the judge yet. I hadn't been found guilty of the crime. So I go to my attorney's office, and he's like, bring all paperwork, tell me the story, what happened. So I show him the paper that says I had been kicked out of the university. He said, wait a minute. You haven't gone to court yet, right? I said, no. He's like, you ever hear of innocent until proven guilty? I was like, yeah, of course. He goes, you haven't been found guilty in the court of law yet. They acted against you. They kicked you out of school based off of allegations. You can't do that. And he's like, I have to look over your enrollment in the university to make sure that is in fact the case. Because sometimes they can include verbiage where it's like, based off of allegations, they could kick you out of school. Yeah. But I hadn't been found guilty of the crime yet.
Because you didn't go to court. You had nothing. You didn't even have a hearing. You had nothing.
Nothing. So he said, what do you want to do? Do you want to play this through and try to follow up with a lawsuit against the school? Or do you want me to try and call the dean of the university and see if we could work something out because they fucked up? I'm like, okay, call them. I don't want to try to I want to act like this never happened. He's like, okay, cool. So he calls the dean. They drop all charges against me. So I go to court. I go in front of the judge. The judge calls me up with my attorney. He's like, well, Kevin, all charges have been dropped. I see exactly what happened here. He's like, you're not leaving my courtroom without any kind of repercussions. He's like, you got to do 100 hours of community service and you have an ACOD. So you have to stay out of trouble, for 6 months and do your 100 hours of community service before your ACOD is up. I'm like, okay.
Okay. Where do I sign?
Yeah. So it was just like skating by constantly. I'm saying this because I want people to understand it's dangerous if you're not fucking dealing with consequences. If you're skating by and there's no accountability, I look back now and I'm like, I was a privileged little fuck that just thought he was invincible and could do whatever the fuck he wanted.
Well, up to this point, you were. Up to this point, you were invincible.
But I almost wish I got caught because maybe, just maybe, things wouldn't have gotten as bad as they did.
I gotcha.
You know?
Yeah, they could have avoided what's coming up, but still, privileged, handcuffed, while you're taking a call from HR. How you doing, Kevin? Been better. And, it's just, you get caught red-handed. This is real. Everything just played into the right place at the right time for them, wrong for you, but you still, yeah, but I get you. What you're saying is, if this would have happened, all this wouldn't have. But it happened for a reason, though.
Right, it did, and that was the theme. I have so many stories where I was like, I was in too deep, and I'm saying the foxhole prayer, God, please get me out of this. I'll never drink again. I'll never drug again, and then things get better, and then I just fucking take my will back every time.
Remember that last one? Let's save that. Just save that one. I'll next time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's no repercussion.
Yep. It's scary, and it's wild because I interview people on my podcast, like people who've been to jail, and like I hear some of their stories, and they're no different from mine. They just got caught earlier in like a bigger crime. went to jail or prison, and it changed the trajectory of their life. So that, I mean, in terms of the usage, it then progressed to, Percocet to Oxycontin, and then at the end it was fentanyl. But during that time, I had mentioned I went to a meeting, a 12-step meeting for the first time, and once you go to your first 12-step meeting, you have a head full of recovery, and you know that there's a better way of life. And it makes it harder to drink or drug, or at least for me it did, because I knew that there was a better way. And I had tried every which way to get clean and sober my way. I would stop the opiates, but I would still drink. I would end up going back. I would stop the opiates and drinking, but smoke weed. I would end up going back. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just do opiates only. Keep it on the weekends, a weekend thing.
You're setting a bar at different levels, man.
And then it was like, okay, complete abstinence, but no program, because I don't want to go to a program. Right?
It's like the rules and regulations, and then there's Kevin's, to manipulate any which way. Yeah. But see, with you were talking about the 12-step and the knowledge. No one, your way, my way is different. Like for me, man, with what I went through, that I just had an issue sitting down in the room and all that. It didn't work for me. I went a different route with social, just a totally different way. But I've heard so many awesome things with different people and different stories. So when people ask me, what's the best way is your way. What works best for you? And, that was, yours, man. But that's intense.
Yeah. Look, I'm stubborn, right? I'm an addict. I'm stubborn. And it's crazy because my thinking and I was always able to get my way with things. And then the disease of addiction got so great that I couldn't control it. And I didn't understand that because I was able to control situations for so long and manipulate situations. But I couldn't manipulate, the disease of addiction. And I couldn't admit, getting humble and admitting I was powerless over something was unfathomable. So I end up now, the first time I had gone to I went to meetings. I got sober in 2013 originally. And, I went away. I went to an inpatient treatment facility. I went into sober living. Went to, was transitioned back to work properly, and went to meetings, got involved. My first 2 years was amazing. I went through the 12 steps. I started sponsoring guys. I was actively working the steps, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I got to a point where I stopped making amends to people. Then I stopped sponsoring people. Then it was like I was still going to meetings, but I wasn't really active. I didn't have a commitment anymore. And I started to pull away from the program. I was still involved in the program, but I pulled away a little bit. And spiritually, I just was not fit. So I'm working out in the gym, about 3.5 years sober, and I tear my rotator cuff again. You got to go in for surgery. Same shoulder. Okay, now it's summer of 2016. Let's go in. I go in for shoulder surgery. Now, my life has gotten exponentially better in that 3.5 years. I got married. I got my own place. I was living in Manhattan, living this great life. It was amazing. My life was amazing. And it's not just about materialistic things. It's about the relationships the new found relationships that I built with my friends, my family, everyone. I was showing up. I was trusted. And I had the surgery. Now my ex-wife, who's great. Who's great, by the way. She's phenomenal. I tried to give her the crash course, like an honest crash course. I'm an addict. I'm gonna tell the doctor. If they give me that's on the doctor. I told him I'm an addict. You deal with the doctor and you hold whatever. She has the pain pills. She dispenses them.
Okay. That's so. This was. So, but she knew about this beforehand, right? So she knew about the addiction and all
course.
that. But you were upfront with her right from the get go, as far as after the surgery. So, so you're still doing everything right. You just pulled away a little.
I did everything right, but I wasn't spiritually fit to go into that surgery yet. I wasn't on the top of my game. I told them. I went through the motions. I told them what my sponsor told me to tell them. But mentally in my head, I'm like, this is a freebie. This is a freebie, and it's going to be fucking awesome. Like that. I was looking forward to it.
See, man, freaking addicts are such manipulators,
I know, man. Oh, yeah. I crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's with the doctor, with my wife. I just so no one can say shit. And I can get my perks, and it'll be great. And sure enough, I take that first Percocet right after surgery, and it hit me like the first time getting high all over again. It had been 3.5 years, and I was done. I was fucking done. Then I'm like stealing from the bottle a couple weeks later when she's not around. I'm putting like Tylenols in there, like just all the crazy shit. Then I'm going back to the doctor myself without her. And I'm like, hey, I need more pain pills. Like, I'm, like, really hurting. And then he wrote me another script. And then he wrote me another script. And then he was like, you're done. Now it's like, fuck, what do I do? Well, now I'm getting oxys. Now I'm doing all that shit. And this is where they started making fentanyl press pills. This was the beginning. So now we're in, like, the end of 2017, maybe, like, January of 2018. I had been using a year and 3 months. Trying to get sober, back and forth, like going to a meeting, getting a month, back and forth, doing my program again, not working. So the end was, it's a very long story, but the end was I went up to the Bronx because my dealer wasn't good. I went to a guy he knew that he said was shady. Be careful with him, but he's got oxys. I go there. I end up getting them in the hood from this dude. They turned out to be fentanyl press pills. I'm driving home, and I was detoxing that morning. I threw 3 down the hatch as I was driving back on the FDR. I end up completely blacking out. I don't remember. And I wake up the next day in my bed with a pocket full of cash and no pills. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like, what happened? I got the blanks filled in for me after the fact. So when I was driving home, I took the pills. I made it home. I got home and I didn't feel right. I called this guy and I was like, yo, you didn't sell me fucking oxys. These were not oxys. Like, this is a different high. And he was like, I sold you fucking oxys. I said, I'm coming there. I want my fucking money back. I'm bringing your pills back. Da, da, da. He's like, don't come back here. Don't come back. I'm coming back. I go back. He's like resistant. But I'm laying on the horn in the fucking hood.
I'm just going to say, now we're talking about this, the same guy that you really don't know, shady as shit.
In the Bronx, yes. Like one of the blocks where like you go on the block, I'm white, and you go on the block and everyone's staring at you until someone claims you.
Then you get the...
Yeah, this is my guy. It's one of those blocks. So I'm laying on the fucking horn. He ends up coming out. He's like, dude... because my money takes place. He's like, don't you ever fucking come back here. And you're lucky you're friends with so-and-so. He's like, get the fuck out of here now. And I left. So as I'm driving back, I'm on the FDR. Now, these pills had come into full effect at this point. I'm blacked out. I don't even remember. I hit another car on the FDR going back home. I hit a couple. We both spin out, total both cars. I get out of the car. I just start running. Now, on the FDR in New York City, the walls, the big red walls, they're like 20, 30 feet. You can't just get off, hop the median, and go into civilization. It's like you got to run to an exit. So it's probably like a mile from the next exit. I fucking run. I'm guesstimating maybe a mile. Probably not. But whatever. It's fucking far. And I'm running down the FDR. I run back to my apartment, and I just pass out. Now, my wife at the time was away on business, and we didn't have our daughter yet. So it was just, she's away. Now I'm by myself. I just fucking pass out, and I wake up the next day. I called someone who's in law enforcement that's very close to me. they ended up going to the scene and covering for me and saying, like, we have him. He just had, like, a mental breakdown. The 2 people in the car did not get hurt. They didn't leave in an ambulance or anything. They walked away.
But they saw you running down.
They did. And he made it like I got caught, like I was apprehended. And, like, I guess he spoke to the police officer.
Wow, man.
And they had my license. He had my license, filled out all the paperwork. And again, because no one got hurt, it ended up working out okay. I ended up having to pay for the total car, whatever. I mean, that's a very small price to pay. Yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I'm just picturing, first of all, waking up and then calling the dope man in the hood. I want a refund.
Yeah.
I want my money back.
Absurd.
I mean, the next vision is, well, first of all, not going, but then you're like, no, not only did you go, fucking laying the horn on. And the thing is, my next thought, especially with my background stuff, I was waiting for you to say, you had a gun in the window or something like that, or had someone waiting for you, man. That's intense.
I'm lucky. He filled me in because I had, like, a bunch of missed calls from him, and then I had called him the next day. I'm like, dude, what the fuck happened? And because he had texted me, like, don't you ever fucking come back. You have some fucking pair of balls, blah, blah, blah. And I called him, and I was like, and then, of course, our mutual friend called me and was like, bro, are you out of your fucking mind, dude? And
so the dealer's probably, like, wanted to kill you, but had mad respect for you. It's like, I want to kill this fucker, but can you believe the balls on this guy?
No, he didn't respect me.
No.
I hear you. They're like, this fucking white kid is just crazy. Yeah. I didn't care. Because, I mean, listen, I don't remember it, but I know what my intentions were. They were, I need the opiate fix. This didn't give me that opiate high I was, looking for. And I've been told that it could have been a barbiturate, like a Xanax or something too. I'm not really entirely sure. But fentanyl pills became flooded in that area, and they were pill pressing oxys with fentanyl, whatever. So shortly after that, I end up getting sober. My now wife at the time, goes to my parents and loops everyone in on what's going on. I go home to Long Island for my nephew's birthday. I sleep at my brother's. I wake up the next morning, my whole family's in the living room with an interventionist. Time. Yeah, and it's like I got interventioned, and I'm still denying it. I'm like, nope. So, guys, someone needed pills and was willing to pay me, so I went got prescribed stuff, and I'm selling it to them. I'm just selling like that. They're like, dude, no. So I end up breaking down, and they're like, listen, you need to go away. Like, you're going to increase the odds of going away. You're going to increase the odds of staying sober if you go away. I end up not going away. I end up going to a meeting, and I put my hand up. I said, I'm back. And I got locked in with this group of people who take sobriety very serious. And I met this crew that just held on to me and kept me in the rooms and held me accountable every day. Like, your first 90 days, any meeting you go to, you're putting your hand up and you're saying your day count and whatever. Like, you got to stay connected and let people know who you are. And you're going to get a commitment, and you're going to greet. And I'm like, greeting commitment? What are you, out of your fucking mind? Like, that's a peasant's job. I don't do that. And they're like, no, you're going to fucking greet.
You're going to humble yourself.
And I remember standing there. I greeted. The next week, a guy walks up, says, oh, Kevin, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're back. That's awesome, dude. Good to see you. And I'm like, holy fuck, this guy knew who I was. And I remember that feeling I felt a part of. And that's what I was chasing for so long. I'm now coming up on 7 years of sobriety. I'm very well connected in meetings and sobriety, and I've been through my steps twice. I sponsor. I have a commitment. I have my own podcast. It's called Riseabovewithkevin with Kevin Lanning. Yes. It's a mental health podcast. Stories of resilience. It's not just addiction and alcoholism. It's stories of resilience. Anything from trauma, because we all have mental health issues as well. It's not just addiction in most cases. It's a deeper reason why you are acting out and using drugs or drinking.
Yeah, it's like a symptom of something, or it's the symptom of the problem. But there's, like you said, there is a reason why. And that's just it. And it's just like sometimes it doesn't have to have a title, addiction or addict or diagnosis, PTSD. It's called life, and sometimes it just fucks us up.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, it's just, something I'm really trying to work on too. It's spiritual well-being. That's the stage I'm after. Like 5 years, I got to a place where it's like you really, because I went into sobriety and I was still doing some scumbag things that first time when I had 3.5 years. Like I was gambling, I was doing all this other shit, and like
Kind of taking the place.
I was substituting one for another, and
Yeah.
not sitting with myself and not doing the work and still acting like an asshole. And even through podcasting and some of the people I've met, even in the last year, like good people, role models that just do the next right thing in life and not looking or expecting anything in return. It's a very peaceful way to live.
Yeah, it really is. And I tell you, ever since I started doing this, looking at it from a different point of view, I mean, doing something like in the past, I was almost in that same thing where I just didn't give a fuck about anything. But then, because I would hear stuff like, Manny, that asshole, and all these negative things. But once I got sober and doing all these positive things, it took that place of that feeling where it's like, man, it feels pretty good to do the right thing. And I never thought like being sober could be fun. I never thought doing the right thing would make you feel so good. And it really does, man. And especially when you share that, feeling. And it just, I know for me, for people who get that, recovery, you're in recovery. And sometimes people just take care of number one, and that's fine. But when you start reaching out and sharing that love for yourself with other people, man, it's such a blessing.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. And helping another person and having like a sponsee celebrate a year sober. There was a guy that there's a guy that I sponsor. He's got almost 4. He's coming up on 4 years. He teamed up. I sponsored him. I think he had like 3 days, and I've been with him since.
What's crazy is when I got out of the hospital, they told me I was lucky to be alive, and I shouldn't have been alive. And it was only not even maybe a month that I was sober, and some family friends came over who were in the program. They were sober for almost 30 years. And I remember, I go, how long have you been sober again? 30 years. And he goes, well, how about you? And I remember going, almost a month, and he goes, why'd you say it like that? I go, well, it's only a month. He goes, when's the last time you were sober for a month? And I mean, he was really, I'm laughing. He goes, what's so funny about that?
Yeah.
He goes, do you know how fucking proud you should be?
Yeah.
He goes, you've been actual sober. I go, yeah, but only a month. He goes, what's this only? He goes, I had to be sober a month before I was sober for 30 years.
Yep.
And I was just like, wow. It was like that switch.
Yeah.
And it was such an amazing feeling, man.
I know. It's a mentality. And when you switch it, if you look at the odds, the people that actually find sobriety and stay sober, very slim. It is insane. If you celebrate a year, I think you're less than 3% or something like that.
And I'm sure that we all know people who we've lost. My time with the police department, and then I wrote the Highwaymen. I've seen a lot of people, not only associates but friends, family, that have died, man. And I get that survivor's remorse. It's like, why am I here? They were so much better people than I was, even though we were struggling, but I was so much worse in so many different ways, and I'm here, they're not, why me, and all that. And it's just like, we got to I keep talking because it keeps their voices alive, and I lost someone who was just like my little brother. And I remember our last walk together, he goes, Manny, I know you're going to beat this. He goes, you're one of the strongest guys I know. And here he was suffering like crazy, but knew I was having problems. He goes, why don't you come over, let's take a walk. He ended up, ODing. And here I was just like, this, kid, took me under his wing while he was suffering. And it just shows that, that love that people have, man, and it's not that he was weak, he lost the battle.
Yeah.
But
it sucks. It happens.
It does, man. But for Kevin, for everything that, and there's so much more with everybody that comes on, and I've seen your stuff, and I really appreciate you coming on here with me and giving me this opportunity to talk to you.
Dude, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your show.
Oh, well, thank you. And I know a lot of times I see shows where people are like, we got to keep in touch and do all that. But I've seen your stuff, and I've seen the reactions and the comments that people give, and it's like, what that's what I want to associate with, and it's not for followers. It's because that's what I want to project not for myself
community.
first, and it's family. When I started my fight at war, I said, listen, it says we have to put what we are. It said group. And I go, I just don't, we're family. Yeah. And it just took off. And like I said, seeing your stuff, man, when, me and Ian and Matt, when I saw that, it was like, this was great, man.
Yeah,
so
man.
I really do appreciate it. And I really do. I would love to stay in touch. And, we do stuff down the line, man, and just because not a one and done, and just keep pursuing stuff to whatever it may hold. Because, like I said, man, it's definitely a pleasure.
I appreciate that, brother. It's a pleasure to be on your show. It's an honor to be on your show, and I appreciate that, man.
Well, I tell you, Kevin, thank you, and check out Kevin and give a shout out to your podcast again.
Yeah, Rise Above with Kevin Lanning. It's on YouTube, all streaming channels, Spotify, Apple Music, etc.
Yeah, I tell you, show him some love because I just physically met him today, and I tell you, it's you. You are what you're around. You give what you get, and you get what you give. And I will never let anyone dictate how I'm going to feel or how I'm going to live. But I am going to associate with people who are, who are champions, who are winners. Who
I appreciate that, man.
So
appreciate that,
yeah,
brother.
so please check us out at My Fight Our War. You can check us out at YouTube at Manny Vitale, My Fight Our War. And like I said, please, give Kevin some love because your story and all of our stories, it helps so many people.
Of course, man.
So thank you guys, and man, Kevin, thanks, brother.
Thanks, brother.